Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. In today's video, I am giving you some more Dollar Tree projects. It's been a while since I have done a few projects for you, so let's go ahead and get started. I just went to my local Dollar Tree and picked up a few items. I hadn't been there in a while, and I was actually there and I made my daughter one of those big balloon signs out of their foam poster board, and I picked up a few items while I was there to go ahead and create a few more things for you. I was able to find the little palette, the mini pallets that they have, a couple of the small mini pallet signs, a couple of their frameless, not frameless, but see-through picture frames, and then also some of their metal just gift tags that they have. And I am just going to use those to create a few projects and show you guys what I did along the way. I started out with the pallets. I know that it's very popular to turn these into coasters, but that's because it's super cute. I picked up 8 of them, and I'm going to make 2 sets of 4. For the first set, I'm going to just do a whitewash on it. I'm going to just take some of my white acrylic paint and water it down and just get it to a nice watery consistency, basically using this as a stain. And I just put that all over the palette, trying to get the insides, all the nooks and crannies, and just going over it a couple times until I get it to the tint that I want. Once that is completely dry, I was able to just take my 120 grit sandpaper and just give it a light sanding. Once you get this wood and stuff from the Dollar Tree or the cheaper woods wet, or wet from water, wet from paint or whatever, they kind of start to splinter up a little bit. So you're going to want to just take a light sanding on all of those edges and get them nice and smooth, just to make sure that you're not getting any splinters. I also want to go ahead and sand down the surface because I'm going to be using some Dollar Tree transfers to put on top of here. I found these really cute blue greenery type style transfer, and I think it'd be really cute on top of this. So I went ahead and sanded down the top, and I sanded my edges really good, kind of to take it back to that bare wood color to give it kind of a distressed look. And then I wiped everything down, cleaned it up, and I was ready to use the transfer. I just set the pallets on either side, marked where I could cut it in half. I peeled it away, and then I set the pallet onto it upside down. So I laid my transfer with the sticky side up, laid the pallet on top of it, and just pushed it down. That way it would stick and I could line it up really easily that way. Flipped it over, and then it was time to transfer it on. Now to do this, you're just going to rub on it with a credit card, I have a plastic palette knife. You can use the back of a paintbrush if you have one that's flat. Any of those things should work for you. And I did have to push pretty hard on this, a little harder than I expected, but that's probably just because it's going onto wood. And what you want to do is just lightly pull it back as you go. If there's any parts that don't transfer, just lay it back down and rub that spot a little harder, and it should come right off. This just is a patience game, so you're just going to do that over and over as you go through until the full thing is transferred on. And then I took my sanding block and I just rubbed it around the edges very softly. I like to go kind of in a down diagonal motion, either straight down, but I like down and diagonal because I feel like it gives it a little better or smoother finish. And all that's going to do is kind of sand away all of those edges that you don't need from the transfer and leave you with nice clean lines. I also took my sanding block and did in between each of the little slats of wood just to make sure that those were nice and cleaned up. And I was ready to do that 3 more times. I won't make you sit through that, but that was my process. Again, I just laid the palette down on top, flipped it over, rubbed it until it was all transferred up, and then sanded it down. Once that was done, I just took my hand and kind of rubbed it over the top to make sure everything was adhered well. And then I needed to seal this. Since I am using these as coasters, they need to be waterproof. So I'm just going to be using some of the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. It does take 28 days to set, but I don't plan on using these anytime soon. So yeah, I just took it and did a nice coat over top of the entire thing and the edges. I didn't worry about the bottom. It shouldn't be getting wet, but Just make sure you give it a nice good coat. If you're worried that it wasn't a good enough coat, just go on for a round 2 after it had dried thoroughly. I think they turned out super, super cute. I would love to hear what your guys' opinion is. It was a super easy, simple, everything from the Dollar Tree. You can pick up acrylic paint there. You have the transfers there. I actually don't know if they have the dishwasher safe Mod Podge, so that might be the one thing that you have to get elsewhere. But a very simple, adorable way to transform these little pallets. For my second set, I am doing kind of the same thing with the stain. I am using the antique Waverly wax. I have a big bottle of this, but I kept the small bottle that I have, and that's where I keep it kind of watered down. I tend to always water down this wax just because it's a little thicker. I find it goes on smoother, and then I can control how light or how dark it is by doing multiple layers rather than just one thick layer with the wax not watered down. So that's what I have in this smaller bottle. I already have it mixed up with water, and I'm just going to paint it on again, getting in all those nooks and crannies. I got a smaller brush to kind of get way down in there. With the whitewash, you don't notice the natural wood as much, but with this one, making it so much darker, you definitely wanted to make sure that you get into all of those areas so that you don't see them, and I let that dry. Once that was dry, I was able to, again, take my sanding block and sand down all these edges, and then also give it kind of that rustic look by sanding back down to that natural wood on some of the corners and just give it some character. And then I'm just going to be using a stencil that I picked up off of Amazon and stenciling on a cute design. I am just using some acrylic paint. If you're not comfortable with stenciling, basically what you want to do, in this case, I'm not using, when I use like the hard plastics, I don't tend to like Mod Podge under it first. But a tip or trick, if you're using, vinyl or anything else for a stencil, you can do a light coat, like tape down your stencil if possible, do a light coat of Mod Podge or the base color that you've already used. And you're gonna tap your brush or sponge into the paint and then dab it on the side and get off all of the excess. You want a very dry brush, and then you're gonna pat or kind of go in circular motions very gently all over that stencil with that, like I said, either a clear, a Mod Podge, or your base paint. And what it's gonna do is kind of go ahead and any of the bleeding that will happen, it'll happen in those and you won't notice it near as much as when you go back in with your different color that you're going to be stenciling in. So you would just let that dry really well, and then you would come back in with whatever color you're actually wanting to stencil with. Since I'm very comfortable with stenciling, and I knew I wanted this to be more rustic and I was going to kind of sand it down after anyway, I skipped that step. I just got my acrylic paint, I got my stencil brush, which a stencil brush is just like a harder bristled brush, and I dabbed off all my excess, and then I just went in circular motions holding the stencil with my fingers because I didn't have a good way to tape it down, and stenciled all over. I wanted it to not be the exact same on all of them, but I wanted them to go together. So on one I did a full stencil, on other parts I did partials, and just kind of moved it around to where I think looked good. I let that dry. I took my sanding block and I just kind of went over it and sanded back down the edges and did a light sanding on it to kind of rough it up a little bit and make it not so crisp and clean. And then I also sealed that with the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. I love this set too. I think both sets came out really good. You should let me know which one of them is your favorite and if you plan to try any of them. For the next project, we are using some of the small mini pallet signs, and I painted these up both in the same way. I used the whitewash on one and I did the Waverly wax on the other. For the one that I whitewashed, I picked up some of the binder clips that you can find at Dollar Tree, and I'm using some of the jute that you can also find there. I am just going to wrap the jute, so I started by tying it onto it and hot gluing the knot so that it would stay in place, and then I slowly just wrapped that jute all the way around that binder ring, stopping to hot glue it every now and then into place so that it wouldn't fully unravel on me if I were to have to set it down or walk away, or in the future, it won't just unravel. Once I got that completely covered, I tied the end off and again hot glued that knot so it won't come undone, and I cut away any of the excess that I had on it. I'm going to be using some of the lamb's ear from Walmart. I think these sticks of greenery are absolutely beautiful, and I know that they will hot glue well because they are more of like a fabric leaf than a plastic leaf. And I'm just gonna cut away individual leaves, and I'm going to be gluing them to the jute to kind of create a greenery wreath for this small sign. I'm just kind of laying it out how I think would look good, hot gluing it into place, and then I'm going to take that and hot glue it to the sign. My sign is already dry, so I just take hot glue around the back of the ring and hot glue that down into place. And then from there, I'm gonna take more of the leaves and kind of fill in any of the gaps or where it might be a little oblong or wonky, and kind of give it that full wreath look. And then I'm gonna take some of that same jute that you can also find at the Dollar Tree and make a cute little bow. I'm going to do it just by wrapping it around my finger several times because I want multiple bows. And then tying the middle, and with the middle I will have two tails, and I'm just gonna hot glue that to the top of the wreath. So it's very simple. I think it turned out really cute. In my head it looked a little better than I feel like it looks in real life, but I also was very distracted when I was doing these signs. I kept getting pulled away, so I feel like that didn't help my transitioning into each of these signs, but you can let me know what you think down in the comments below. I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite project. For the second sign, again, I did the watered down Waverly wax to give it a nice good stain. And then I didn't fully have a vision for this when I started, but then I decided I was going to do some wood burning. Mistake. When I'm doing the wood burning, I should have just left it the natural wood and then stained it after. The issue is I had already put the wax on because I wasn't planning to burn it at first, and the wax was just causing all kinds of problems. So it was not burning properly, and it was very uneven, and it wouldn't give me that really good burnt look because the wax was blocking it. And even when the wax was like melted, I couldn't get it off the sign. So I went ahead and burned it and moved on. I'm going to be taking some of this, it's like a gray, almost like dark gray metallic ribbon and lace, and putting that across the top of each of it. I'm just gonna hot glue it in the back, trying to make sure that it's, you know, the same distance and width and everything on each side. And then I decided I'm gonna take some black paint and just kind of fix up this area where it says welcome. Oh, I guess I should mention, I just took one of the little metal welcome wreaths that they have at the Dollar Tree and traced the wording on it to do my burning. I did go back and fix it a little bit with a pencil and eraser because tracing it makes things a little wider than they actually need to be. So I just kind of corrected it as I saw fit, and then I did the burning. But again, I'm not happy with it, so I'm just going to take a bit of my black acrylic paint and paint it in to get that really dark look that I was looking for, and just kind of trace around what I already have and color it in. And then once that was dry, I mixed up just like an off-white by using white acrylic paint and the hazelnut chalk paint from Waverly to give me a nice good off-white that would match the lace that I used. And I just traced and outlined the words just to make them pop off a little more and give them some detail so you can really tell what the letters say. And I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, it's cute enough, but again, I'm not super in love with it, but you guys can let me know in the comments below. If you guys are new here, also consider subscribing. I would love to have you here with me on my crafting journey. I'd love to hear from you guys, get feedback from you, whether it's in the comments below or even on my Facebook page. I do have a Facebook group that I had started. We're still new and pretty small, but we would love to have you guys come in, share your projects with us, spread creativity and some inspiration to each other, bounce ideas around. It's just a place where you can share your project, share your thoughts, and get advice from other people. I'm in there and be happy to communicate with you. But again, any questions you may have for me or comments, leave them below. I love hearing from you. For the next project, I picked up some of the metal gift tags, and I'm just going to be using my Cricut to make little cute sayings for them. I do subscribe to Cricut, so I just typed in and found a couple quotes that I really like and adjusted them, for colors and whatever different colors I wanted to use and down to the sizing that I need, and got that all cut out on my Cricut. I weeded everything and I am going to be transferring it over. Now, I am using this really cool transfer tape that I got off of Amazon. It is linked in my description. If you're looking for a good transfer tape that won't rip and peel your paint and cause any problems, this one's basically just a massive roll of masking tape, and it's amazing. It's my favorite transfer tape I've ever used because it's just sticky enough to hold your vinyl on, but it doesn't take anything with it. I did use it I'm using a bit of the foil adhesive vinyl today, and it's not quite strong enough to do that. I just kind of made it work. I just didn't feel like pulling out my actual Cricut transfer tape, but it works wonders. You do, have to fiddle with it a little bit just by like bending and peeling your vinyl back a little slower or whatever, but it works beautifully, especially if you have like painted wood or anything like that. It's not going to peel your paint off, which is so important because I have ruined so many projects having transfer tape that was just way too strong. So that's just my little plug for you. If you're interested, the stuff is amazing. So I just cut the pieces down, and I do use 2 different pieces multiple times, and it worked out great each time. So I'm just going to be transferring these over for 2 of them. So they come in packs of 3. For 2 of them, I'm just doing, the phrase or saying just for that and putting a little tie on them. Now people can use these for gift tags. They can use them for, just decoration somewhere, or, hanging on the rearview mirror in their car, kind of wherever. And so I'm just putting like a little hanger on them. And then I'm taking 2 from each pack and I'm kind of making them a set. I had cut out, whatever word or phrase I'm going to use for them, but I also cut out some just different sized rectangles. I'm going to do like the striped sack. I can't think of what it's actually called. Maybe I'll find it and put it up here for you. But I'm just going to do some of the different lines on there just to give it a little bit more flair because they're kind of plain. So I just kind of laid those out as straight as possible with equal spacing for whichever ones I did. And then I took some E6000 and some hot glue, and making sure that my holes were lined up, I glued those together and set something heavy on top of them to let them cure, to make sure that they weren't going to come apart. Then I created a little tassel for each set and a hanger. So for the tassels, you basically just wrap whatever you're using. I'm using some white twine or white jute, whatever you want to call it, and wrap it around your fingers or something, however many times. You're going to tie one side off, and then you're going to cut the bottom of it. So cut all of the loops on the bottom, and that's what will create your tassel. And then you can put a string through the loops that are on the top to make sure that they don't come undone. So you just tie that, and then you have it in a little string, and then you can either create a hanger or just tie the tassel, whatever you want to do. I've done this before and put some of the wooden beads on there, and it looks really cute. So it's simple, easy to make. You might just need to work it around a little bit to get your fingers coordinating with each other, but simple as that. I think they all turned out pretty cute with all the different little sayings. Again, they can just hang it in decoration, like off a tiered tray or something like that, off the rearview mirror, and just kind of have these little phrases to get them through the day. I really enjoyed these. They were pretty simple to do. The small lettering was very fun to weed, but that's okay. I think they turned out great, and I'm very pleased with them. Let me know which one of the phrases is your favorite. For the last project that I have for this Dollar Tree haul, I am doing the small frames where it's just see-through. Basically, it has a 2 pieces of glass that meet together, so you can put your picture or whatever you're using right there in the middle. I happen to still have some of my IOD transfers. I absolutely love these and have been looking for a reason to use them again. And I know that this will be a simple, easy, but super adorable project. So I'm just going to take them apart, remove that inlay that they have in there. I don't like how they have them taped or glued because it's leaving marks on your glass. So you can just use some alcohol and just rub it and get that off. Just be careful, the glass isn't super strong and the edges are sharp, so please be careful with that. But I'm just going to clean that off and then use alcohol to wipe the entire surface of the piece of glass that I'm using my transfer on. Just like the Dollar Tree transfers, you just lay these down and you rub them and they transfer over. These ones transfer even like way more easy, and especially on glass, they're just gonna stick wherever they land. So I just have to be careful when I'm lining them up. So I just used my glass piece to lay it down on top to go ahead and cut out which size I need on what part of the picture I wanted. Once I have it cut down, I removed the backing, laid that down on the side I wanted to transfer it to, used my little Cricut brayer to just rub it and get it off. And then once I was done with that, I took my sandpaper and very, very lightly hit the edges to get any of the excess transfer off of it that I didn't want. And it's easy as that. Now you're supposed to seal these transfers. I am not going to, just because I'll have the piece of glass kind of there and holding them in place, and since it is transparent in some spots, we don't want brush strokes from anything, so I'm going to opt out of that. Like I said, it's on glass, so it sticks very great, like really, really well, and you don't have to stress out about it too much as if you were doing it on wood or plastic or something else. So I did that with the first one, and then with the second one, I wanted it to match, but I wanted to have more negative space so you could really see that glass through there. So I just kind of built my own picture with the scraps that I had left over from the picture that I just used. So I just kind of laid those down how I wanted, rubbed them off, got them in place, and sanded down the edges to get rid of any extra, popped it back in, and voila. I think these are super cute. I'm not sure which one of the projects from today's video is my favorite, but these ones, I really enjoyed them. But again, I love the IOD transfers. I would love to hear which one of these projects is your favorite. Please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and like this content, please give me a thumbs up to let me and YouTube know that content is worth sharing and that it's worth filming more of. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you join us here. If you're returning, I love you very much. Thank you so much for your constant support. I'm going to take you guys in for another quick glance and close up, and I'll see you next time.